I literally did not know Mr. Trump at all, and I didn't know anyone that knew Mr. Trump. I was about 10 days after the election. I was watching college football with my wife on a Saturday afternoon. I got a cold call, Reince Priebus, and I barely remembered that name. And once he convinced me it really was Reince Priebus and not one of my retired friends who does this kind of thing. You know, said Mr. Trump would like to have an opportunity to talk to you maybe about going into the administration.
That was just a few days ago. White House Chief of Staff incoming, Secretary John Kelly, in an interview with our own Pete Williams in Aspen. He did not know the president or anyone who knew the president before taking his job as Secretary of Homeland Security last fall. Now he will take over to lead the staff in the West Wing on Monday. We are so happy and fortunate to have with us three men who know the general. Retired four-star U.S. Army General Barry McCaffery, decorated combat veteran of Vietnam, ground commander in Desert Storm, and another highly decorated combat veteran of the Vietnam War, Colonel Jack Jacobs, U.S. Army retired, one of only 71 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. Also returning to our broadcast tonight, the former Chief of Staff at the CIA and Pentagon, Jeremy Bash. So, General, you and General Kelly were both in the four-star club. That is a very small membership. How well did you come to know him? And tell us, who is this man?
Well, I've seen him over the years, particularly as a SOUTHCOM commander. I've been in seminars with him and dealing with Latin American issues. Brian, let me say this categorically. This is one of the finest people I ever met in my life in terms of integrity, competence, good judgment. So I think it's good news to the American people. I'd also point out, I've heard a couple of our colleagues talking about his lack of congressional or political experience. This fellow was 7 years working Congress for the U.S. Marine Corps. So he's intimately aware of how the legislative process works. And then finally, he's not only served in Europe and Afghanistan and all over Latin America, he's been the military assistant to two of the finest public servants we ever had, Bill Gates and Secretary Panetta. So I think this guy he'd be better off parachuting into Raqqa, Syria, than going into this White House. But it's good news to the American people.
General, you always have a way with words. Colonel Jacobs, in addition to being a New Englander, his accent will give that away as we get to know General Kelly more. We should also note, beyond the respect the American people should have for his service, for agreeing to take this job, he's a Gold Star father. He lost a Marine Corps son in Afghanistan. He has a son still serving in the Marine Corps, I understand. Jack, why, if you believe so, is he suited for this job?
Well, he's intelligent, hardworking, diligent. He's a strong patriot. He's a great American. But I don't think any of that matters in this White House. At the end of the day, the Chief of Staff has to be the Chief of the Staff. Anybody who has an opportunity to work around him is going to leave the place in chaos. It will continue that way. Jared Kushner doesn't report to anybody, goes directly to the president. Bannon is stuck to the president like a limpet on a hull of a ship. Scaramucci's already said that he reports directly to the president. At the end of the day, General Kelly's either going to have to accept a diminished role as the Chief of Staff, or he's going to be frustrated and he's going to have to leave.
Jeremy Bash, during your time, I know General Kelly became one of the military officers you worked with the closest.
We worked in the front office for Secretary Panetta, as General McCaffery referenced. We traveled all around the world together, and I want to echo what Colonel Jacobs said. He is a great American. He may be one of the greatest Americans, but I think the point stands that even if we had the greatest American serving as the White House Chief of Staff, if the president doesn't empower that person, insist on order, insist on discipline, and John Kelly is a student of the chain of command and a student of discipline and order, then the president is not going to be able to achieve his agenda, and John Kelly and nobody will be able to survive in that post. If anybody can do it, I know John can, and I've talked to a lot of his friends tonight. I talked to his former boss at the Pentagon, Secretary Panetta. We all know that he is highly capable, highly intelligent. We're praying for him. We're pulling for him. We want the president to empower him now to bring order to that very unordered place.
Well, I hope a lot of Americans see and hear what you gentlemen just said about him tonight.